Hey, what's going on? Good morning, everybody. You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. Today, it is early in the morning, Wednesday, January 4th, 2023. And in today's video, we're going to be doing a rundown of the news, business news, economic news, have some interesting stuff to share with you guys. Yesterday was the first trading day of the year. It was the first day the markets are back open in 2023. And while markets didn't close down a ton, pretty much across the board, markets closed down red. A lot of people are worried about that this is going to be the second consecutive year of a down stock market. 2 years back-to-back of a down stock market are relatively rare. If you look at the past 50 or so years, it's only happened one time in the early 2000s, like the dot-com bubble, and then once again in the mid-70s. People are worried that 2023 is going to be worse than 2022, and we're going to have two consecutive years of a down market. We got a lot of news to cover today, a lot of interesting stats about millennials and Gen Z switching jobs, how broke they are, how many are living with their parents, how many have no savings, how many are in debt. We'll be going through some of those statistics. We're hearing a Wall Street Journal article, more bosses are ordering employees back into the office. Sam Bankman-Fried has pled guilty and has a trial date set for October. We're expecting gas to go over $4 again in 2023. Amazon's dominance continues to fade. YouTube and Meta are losing their market share of the online advertising game, and a whole bunch of other stuff to share in today's video. I've been giving you guys some TV and movie recommendations. So today I have a podcast recommendation for you guys. If you guys haven't checked out this channel, Matthew Cox, Inside True Crime. This guy wound up going to prison for mortgage fraud. In prison, he wound up writing the life stories and the crime stories of a lot of people he was in jail with. And that's what a lot of his early videos were about. Now he started doing a lot of interviews, and he had an interesting podcast the other day. It was titled The Rebirth of America's Biggest Bath Salt Trafficker. A guy by the name of Justin Smith, and he has an interesting story. I think at 13 years old, he started his own ISP company back when it was like dial-up internet. At 17 years old, he was designing websites for some major companies. That led to a job in real estate, and eventually he got into selling bath salts, being a bath salt distributor. Ultimately wound up going to prison for it, did a couple years in prison, and now he's out, and he's actually running an app called Contractor Plus that kind of helps contractors do their scheduling, billing, etc. I think I'd actually looked at Contractor Plus a few years back when I was still running the landscaping business. But interesting podcast. I will link to it down below. Feel free to check that out. But let's get into today's video. So again, we talked about yesterday, first day the markets opened, markets closed pretty much down across the board. A lot of people are worried we're going to have 2 years of back-to-back down markets. Next story, there was a Prudential Pulse survey that was recently put out, and well, they did look at all Americans. A lot of this data is specifically about millennials and Gen Z, and I thought some of these statistics were pretty interesting. Now, one thing, the media seems to be trying to spin the narrative that the economy isn't that, the media, the Fed, the talking heads on CNBC and other financial channels, they seem to say things like, the American economy is surprisingly resilient. The American consumer is still strong, but when you look at a lot of things going on in the world, it doesn't seem like our economy is that resilient, and it doesn't seem like the consumer is that strong. Most people, a good chunk of people have no savings. An even larger chunk of people don't have $500 to withstand an emergency. Over half of restaurants couldn't pay their rent back in November. 43% of small businesses couldn't pay their rent. 38% of real estate offices couldn't pay their rent. When we start looking at these stats and these statistics, it doesn't look like a healthy economy. It doesn't look like a strong economy, and it doesn't seem like the consumer is strong to me. But let's kind of go through some of these statistics. So, a third of millennials and 46% of Gen Z have switched employers since the pandemic started. If you look at that in contrast to all workers, 29% of all workers switched employers since the pandemic. We've talked about this in recent videos. The past 2 years have been a great time to job hop. Normally if you stay at a company, you normally get a 2 to 3% raise every year. If you switch companies, you typically get a 12 to 15% raise. So the past couple years have been a great opportunity for people to hop jobs and increase their salary. And I thought this statistic was interesting. Almost half of Gen Zers have switched jobs since the Mexican beer cough. I think that kind of makes sense. The oldest Gen Zers are 25. Most people fresh out of college, maybe they take a job to get a year or two of experience before trying to get a better job, before trying to move up to a better job. So that kind of makes sense. A third of millennials switched jobs during the Mexican beer cough. But both millennials and Gen Z were substantially higher than all workers of all ages. 44% of people believe switching jobs is the best way to get a pay bump, and that's definitely true. 29% of millennials who switched jobs took a pay cut. I thought this was interesting. Almost 30% of millennials took a pay cut or purposely got a job that paid lower. But of those 29%, 25% say that it was to have a better work-life balance. What does a better work-life balance mean? That could mean less hours. Maybe you're working a normal 40-hour week instead of a 60 or 80-hour week. Maybe you have more flexibility in terms of where you work from or how much you work or when you work. Maybe that means remote work. But it seems that millennials are deciding, having a work-life balance, having a life, enjoying my life is more important than money, and I'm willing to take a pay cut for a better work-life balance. 49% of millennials and Gen Zers don't believe their salary will be enough to meet their financial goals. Half of millennials and Gen Z don't believe that their job's going to pay enough to meet their financial goals. 70% of all workers report having done gig work to supplement their income. 81% of Gen Zers report having done gig work, and 77% of millennials. Is that a healthy economy when 80%, a vast majority of the young people in this country, are having to deliver Grubhub or Uber Eat or DoorDash in order to get by? 34% view gig work as a temporary solution and not a permanent solution. Where do people seek their financial advice? Among millennials and Gen Zers, 12% have financial advisors. 50% say they get their financial advice from YouTube, and 30% on TikTok. And while there are some great financial YouTubers and TikTokers, there's also a lot of bad information out there as well. So that's kind of a scary statistic. 50% of people report having less than $500 or no emergency savings. And 39% of Americans report having no emergency savings at all. That's a pretty hefty chunk of the country. That's, we're getting up near half of people who have no savings whatsoever. They're going from check to check. 46% of people believe social obligations are a financial burden. We talk about how people have less friends, people are less connected to their families, less connected to their communities. Maybe it's not that people hate people or dislike other people. Maybe it's people don't feel like they have the money to be part of a lot of these social situations. And then we have 81% of Gen Zers and 77% of millennials report either having pursued or having considered pursuing gig work. In the video the other day, we talked about that new Louisiana law where you're going to have to verify your identity, verify you're over 18 years old in order to view adult sites. I'm not going to say the P word because this is YouTube. We got to be careful about what we say. And I started seeing some screenshots yesterday. I'm sure not all the adult sites have actually implemented this yet. But if you are in the state of Louisiana and you try to go on some of these sites, you're going to get kind of a white air page, and it says, we've identified that you're from the state of Louisiana. You need to verify your identity. This is because of this law put forwards by this politician. I guess there's something called LA Pass, so Louisiana Pass. It's kind of odd that now the state government of Louisiana is essentially the gatekeeper to, we'll just say it, is essentially the gatekeeper to pornography. That's kind of weird. Also, it's very odd that you have to put in your details to watch adult content. They claim that your data isn't kept. This is used to verify you, and once you're verified, all the data is deleted. I have a hard time believing that. State DMVs, the government loves to sell our information to marketers and marketing companies. And I have a hard time believing that they're not kind of tracking or keeping some of this data. Also, as we saw with the thing in your arm passes, these databases get hacked all the time. Equifax and these credit reporting agencies get hacked all the time. Are you really wanting to put your identification in to access adult content? I can almost guarantee you that there's going to be some data leak or some hack, and everybody's search history on these adult sites is going to get released, and it's going to be a big mess. Mark my words. I guarantee within the next year, we're going to see that happen. We got an article from the Wall Street Journal yesterday. More bosses are ordering workers back to the office as the job market shifts. The article talks about how there is a tug of war going on between employers and employees. In the article, they touched on a couple companies like Vanguard and Paycom Software. Employers are saying that, and so this is what's interesting, right? So during the Mexican beer cough and over the past couple of years, we saw a lot of employers touting how great remote work was, how their employees are happier, their employees are more productive. It's such a great thing. Why didn't we do this earlier? But now that the power balance is starting to shift away from employees and back to employers, now that the economy is kind of headed downwards, a lot of these employers are kind of changing their tune, and they want people back into the office. We have companies like Salesforce and Snapchat, which had previously touted how amazing remote work is, who are now saying, we want you back in the office. We noticed that, being in the office, it helps with problem solving. It helps with training new hires. It helps with corporate culture. It seems like over the past year, we have seen more employers saying, hey, employees, we want you guys back in the office maybe 1-2 days a week. You got to scan in or swipe in. We want to see you back in the office a couple days a week. Now, largely, this has been ignored by most employees. Most employees are just kind of ignoring it and continuing to work from home. And for the most part, there haven't really been too many consequences. Employers haven't really cracked down on this. They didn't want to rock the boat. They didn't want to upset people. They didn't want to make people quit. But it seems like now employers are starting to crack down a little bit. They're saying things like it's not fair to the people who do come into the office that other people can just kind of flout the rules. And HR advisors in this article were quoted as saying employees' leverage over companies is slipping and bosses are pushing for a change in work styles. They found that studies show that most employees are willing to come into the office at least a day or two a week. And again, employers say it's unfair to those who have been complying. There was a company, Life Pro Financial Services, made everybody return to the office. Turned out that a third of the people quit. Now, one thing I noticed when it comes to these remote work discussions, if you read the comment sections below articles or, read Reddit posts about this, Reddit threads about this, it seems to be divided into two camps. The people who are not working remotely seem to be jealous of the people who are and want remote work to come to an end. Some people also seem to think that if they're in the office, they're having to pick up a lot of the slack of people who are at home, quote unquote, supposedly working, but who aren't doing a whole lot. On the other side, you have people who are working remotely who love it, love their newfound freedom, love that somebody's not looking over their shoulder, and love the fact that they can kind of take a little bit of their life back. I'd be curious to hear from you guys, of your coworkers, your friends, your family, or just kind of your opinion of the general population. How many people do you think are actually more, everybody claims they're more efficient working from home. How many people do you think actually are more efficient working at home, and how many people just like it and just want it to continue? I can say amongst my family and friends who work remotely, most of them probably don't put in more than 2 to 3 hours a day. I've talked about this in numerous videos before. I think it's an antiquated idea that we pay somebody for sitting in a chair for 8 hours a day staring at a screen. I think you should be paid for a certain skill set, a certain task, a certain end result. And if that takes you 2 hours to do, great. You got the next 6 hours of the day to yourself. If it takes you a full 8 hours to do, put in a full 8 hours worth of work. But I think the idea that we're paying people for their time is kind of an antiquated way of looking at the workplace. However, that said, I think remote work is kind of this weird cat and mouse game where employees at home who aren't putting in a full hours act like they are. Employers kind of turn their head and act like it's fine. Everybody's kind of playing this cat and mouse game. I was talking to a buddy of mine who I've talked about in a couple of these articles. He is an accountant for a company. And, I see him regularly going to the gym during work, going for runs during work. He'll be, hanging out at my house or hanging out at another friend's house. And he's actually going out to California to live out there for the next couple of months. He's got family out there. He's not beholden to be in an office. So he wants to escape the Chicago winters. He's going to go stay with a family member out in Southern California, and he's going to be driving out there next week. Now, I had asked him, I was just kind of curious, like, where he's stopping. I said, where are you going to stop on your way out there? He said, I might hit the Black Hills, probably stop in Arizona. And I was just curious. I said, are you, like, taking time off of work, or what are you doing? And he said, no, I'm going to be logged into my computer. If anybody needs anything, I can pull over and respond. He said, normally if my manager needs to talk to me, she'll hit me up and be like, you got a few minutes for a call? And, he said, I'll just pull over at a Starbucks or gas station, take the call, and get back on the road. So, this is anecdotal. This is one friend of mine, but this is kind of what I see that I think is kind of representative of your average remote worker. My buddy's going to be making the 30-hour drive out to California during 3 days of work. And obviously he'll be there if an emergency comes up. If somebody tries to contact him, he'll know about it so that he can act like he's working. But really he's going to be spending 8, 10, 12 hours a day driving, and he's not going to be doing a whole lot of work. There were a couple comments that I picked out from this article that I thought were kind of interesting. So let's kind of give a couple of these comments a read. Here's the first one. In reading these comments to the many news stories about remote work, I sense from the tone of remarks generally that, to a large extent, commenters advocating for remote work policies are individuals working or who want to work remotely themselves, or that have a partner in that position. My sense is that most commenters opposing work from home are those folks left in the office coping with the consequences of others not working. We got another comment from that article. Okay. Sure, some people can thrive away from the office, but the vast majority cannot. Trying to reach somebody at an office is nearly impossible. Don't dare try to call between 8 and 4 because they are not working. Any messages or emails left during the business day are quickly answered between 4:30 and 6 as the workers are just following up on the day of work in the last 30 to 60 minutes of the day. Companies are failing because customer service is dead and people are not working. Here's another interesting comment, and this kind of shows kind of a lot of the immaturity surrounding this whole remote work thing. So somebody says, fine, I will come back to the office, but I will also bring my persistent cough, sneezing, and my on and off sore throats I've been having for 2 months now. I will make sure you know I'm in the office. I am at the printer sneezing, at the cafeteria coughing, and in the break rooms laughing at the latest backslapping jokes while phlegm comes off my lips. You win. Another commenter had told this person, first off, you sound like you're mentally ill. What I wonder about is why is this person having a persistent cough, sneezing, and sore throats for 2 months? Like maybe staying at home and not leaving their house for the past 2 years, maybe that's not good for them. I don't know. But those are kind of the some interesting comments about that article. Let's talk a little bit about the Sam Bankman-Fried FTX situation. FTX pled not guilty. A trial date has been set for October. Now, if you guys remember when SBF got out of jail, he put up the $250 million bond. He has to stay at his parents' house, and he was ordered not to spend more than $1,000 and not to move money. We learned recently that he had taken, I think, another $700,000 worth of Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies from the Alameda wallet. I guess I'm not sure why they hadn't done this before, but the court has stepped in and stopped him from accessing any of that crypto. So Sam Bankman-Fried also asked the judge to hide the identities of two people who, signed off on his bail or signed to guarantee his bail. His parents' house, I believe, is worth about $4 million. His bond was $250 million. So there are two mysterious people out there who have helped him make his bail, and he's asking that the court hide this information. We know that Sam Bankman-Fried has deep political connections. His aunt is WEF. His mom is a big shot in the Democratic Party for campaign bundling. He's been on stage with Bill Clinton. He's donated a lot of money to the Democrats. So I'm guessing these two people want to be hidden are people in high places or people in politics. Thought this was kind of a stupid article. Yesterday, the New York Times had an op-ed that says we should all mate with shorter people because they take up less space, less resources, and if we ever need to flee the Earth, more people can fit on spaceships. I thought that was kind of the dumbest article ever. New York Times op-ed from yesterday. But it kind of goes along with everything else, right? You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. You'll live in a pod, you'll eat bugs, and you'll mate with short people, so that your offspring are shorter and they'll take up less resources. Zero Hedge had an article yesterday. Cheap gas is the calm before the storm. It's expected that the national average of gas prices will hit over $4 by May of 2023. And a lot of you guys in the comment sections are already reporting that you're paying over $4 for gas. Looks like Amazon is losing some of their dominance. I kind of notice this amongst people I know and even just kind of seeing people online, right? Everybody used to love Amazon. Now a lot of people are kind of starting to look at Amazon as it's basically an AliExpress with faster shipping. You go to search for a coffee grinder or something like that, and what do you wind up with? You wind up with 6 pages of results of hundreds of the exact same product with a different private label name on it. Also, it seems like Amazon Prime deliveries are no longer making it out to you same day or even in 2 days. A couple days before Christmas, I was looking at a few things on Amazon, and delivery dates were anywhere from December 29th to as far back as January 8th. So I kind of wonder, what are we paying for with our Amazon Prime if we're going to have, 2 week long shipping anyways? Amazon sales in 2021 accounted for 56.7% of all online sales, and that was up 28%, and that was up from 28% in 2013. Amazon is switching from a mode of hyper growth to hyper cost optimization. Amazon became stuck with too much warehouse space after adding more than 450 facilities during the Mexican beer cough. Amazon had 2 Prime Days this past year, and they were less effective in terms of sales than Prime Days of the past. In this past year, in 2022, Amazon stock tumbled over 51%. So I saw another article. I think this one came to us from Search Engine Journal, but they had a bunch of people who work in digital marketing and social media talking about what trends or what predictions do they have for 2023. Pretty much across the board, everybody said TikTok will continue to grow. That kind of flies in the face of my prediction, which is I think TikTok's going to be banned in 2023. Another kind of tip or piece of advice they had was skate where the puck is going, not where the puck has been. Spend more time on TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube, less time on platforms like Twitter and Snapchat. Everybody seems to say short-form vertical video will take over the content game in 2023 if it hasn't already, and LinkedIn will continue to be the go-to place for B2B businesses in 2023. Here's an interesting statistic. So 0 tech deals raised $1 billion in 2022 compared to 2021, where 15 different IPOs were able to raise $1 billion. Millennials and Gen Z are not doing well financially. 1 in 5 18 to 24-year-olds have at least one debt in collections. We also learned that 5% of millennials and Gen Zers have a credit card that is more than 60 days delinquent. So there's going to be 5% more joining that 20% who have debts and collections. During the holiday, 4 in 5 millennials and Gen Zers reported using credit cards or buy now, pay later. 70% of millennials and 65% of Gen Zers are living paycheck to paycheck. That doesn't sound like the sign of a healthy economy to me. Saw this yesterday. So Samsung's putting out a new fridge. It's called the Bespoke Fridge, and it includes a 32-inch monitor on the refrigerator. So you can do things like order groceries from Amazon. You can also watch TikTok. Technology is a great thing, but do we really need to be able to watch TikTok on our televisions? Here's an interesting one. Instacart lowered their internal valuation to $10 billion. That's down from their previous valuation of $39 billion. What does this tell us? I think it kind of shows that, a business like Instacart really thrived during the Mexican beer cough period, and now a lot of people are returning to stores and doing their own shopping. I think it also shows that, people are maxed out and tapped out. Inflation is hitting people, and people no longer have the disposable income to pay for luxuries like having somebody do your grocery shopping for you. In a lot of videos in the past, we've talked about the millennial lifestyle subsidy. A lot of these tech companies, a lot of these disruptors, a lot of these startups, Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, etc., they were offering their services for less than they actually cost to attract customers and to be able to disrupt an industry. Now we're seeing the VC money's rolling. The VC money is running out. Cheap money is no longer around, and these companies are finding that they have to generate revenue, they have to be more efficient, and they have to charge what their services actually cost. And it seems that less people are willing to pay what these services actually cost in 2023. So I think that's pretty much all the stories for today. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, and opinions, so drop them in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below and ring the bell as well. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.